Hey, what's going on everybody? My name is TohoSniper98, but you can just call me Tuhu. Star Rail's been all the rage ever since it came out a couple weeks ago, and I've been binging it myself since launch. So, in case you're wondering what your resident gacha master thinks of Star Rail so far, I don't know, it's alright I guess, I only streamed it for like a week and a half straight, playing it anywhere from 7 to 14 hours a day, every day. So yeah, you should give it a shot if you like turn-based strategy games and gacha. Since this is still the opening few weeks of Star Rail's launch and Kafka isn't even in the game yet, not playable yet anyway, so we'll have more new people picking up the game when she is, I figure I'd put this video out there to help people optimize their progress when they do start playing. But you might be wondering, hey Tuhu, why should I watch this video when there are so many other bigger YouTubers who have already put out their own guides on how to start playing Star Rail? Well, I'm glad you asked. Unlike most of them, I play quite a few gacha games. 8 of them, to be precise, all at the same time, all the time, for the past 6 years. When I say I main the gacha games I play, I mean it. I know these gacha games inside and out, and I put in the time to back up that claim, and that's before I tell you that I've played Genshin Impact since its launch 2.5 years ago, and Genshin is a game that Star Rail is the most similar to because they're both developed and published by the same people. And since this video is all about min-maxing your progress so that you can play Star Rail as efficiently as you can, logically speaking, I'm one of the best qualified people to tell you how. That and, I've spent the past 2 weeks or so grinding Star Rail for at least 8 hours a day to get to TL48 or whatever my Trailblazer level is at this point, so I have a pretty good idea of what you're supposed to do when you're starting out. So, now that you know my credentials, let's talk about how you can min-max your account in Honkai Star Rail. I'll give you the TLDR of this video right now. Raising your Trailblazer level is your highest priority until you've finished all the main story content that's available. Level up the characters in your main team, their traces, and their light cones in the meantime to keep up with the difficulty. Don't farm relics until you're TL40, and play through Simulated Universe as much as you can for the material drops and to see how far you can get for the most amount of rewards there. Now, let's dive into the details. First, decide if you want to re-roll for a certain 5-star character. Star Rail has a beginner gacha where you can put in up to 5 multis at a 20% discount of its normal cost, and you are guaranteed 1 5-star character from the permanent pool, and you can even get more if you're lucky. However, Star Rail does not have a story skip button, just like Genshin, so you'll be spending a good half hour or longer each reroll, so you've been warned. If you want to go ahead and reroll anyway, you have 7 5-stars that you can get: Himeko, Welt, Bronya, Gepard, Clara, Yanqing, and Bailu. Obviously go for waifu or husbando first, but if you only care about gameplay, I think the best one you can get is Bronya, followed by Welt and Yanqing in no particular order, though I want to stress that all of the 5-stars are still good too. Make sure to look up a guide on how to optimally reroll too when you get started. Next, your account level, or your Trailblazer level, is the most important element of progress in the early game. The main reason why is because of your equilibrium level, or your world level if you play Genshin Impact, since, well, they're the same thing. The higher the equilibrium level, the stronger enemies get, but also the better the drops that you get from fighting enemies in the overworld and farming material nodes like calyx flowers and caverns of corrosion. In addition, your characters are also gated by equilibrium level, so the higher it is, the higher the level caps your characters can be, and thus the stronger they'll get. Another reason why is because at certain points throughout the main story that's currently available, the game will prevent you from proceeding until you get to certain Trailblazer levels. The first of these so-called level gates is at TL24, the second is at TL29, and the third is at TL34. Progressing through the main story rewards you with access to the main character's second form and to World 2, which has more side quests and chests, which means more Trailblaze XP and Stellar Jade that you can throw into Selly's banner and get more 3-star light cones. Okay, then how do you level up your Trailblazer level? The most prevalent way is to use your stamina in Star Rail. Many gacha games have some kind of stamina system that dictates the progress you make on your account, and in Star Rail it's called Trailblaze power. Why miHoYo decided to call it this instead of something short and sweet like Resin in Genshin, I don't know, but anyways. When you begin the game, you start with full Trailblaze power, which is a total of 180. Your Trailblaze power is extremely important because everything in the game that helps you progress your account costs Trailblaze power. I mentioned at the start of the video that you have to farm things like Calyx Flowers, Corrosion Caverns, and Stagnant Shadows for materials to level up characters and light cones. These nodes cost Trailblaze power for the materials they drop, but they also give you Trailblaze XP along with those materials. If it's not capped, your Trailblaze power regenerates naturally at a rate of 1 every 6 minutes, but if it is capped, the game stops it from regenning and you can't get any more until you use some of it. This means that the longer you take to go through the beginning of the game when you first start out, the more Trailblaze power you're wasting until you finally use it. And lastly, every 10 Trailblaze power equals 50 Trailblaze XP when you use it. This rate is constant throughout the game, so anytime you spend Trailblaze power on anything, you don't need to worry about whether or not you'll lose out on any Trailblaze XP or you being inefficient with your Trailblaze power at all. So your objective as soon as you start the game, or at least once you've settled on a reroll account that you're happy with, is to rush through the story as fast as you can until you reach the first Calyx Flower, which is a node where you can farm things like character XP, light cone XP, and credits. And the first one you get to upon entering World 1 is the one that gives you character XP. When you do, play it once or twice so that you use up some of your Trailblaze power and get it to start passively regenerating as you continue to play through the game. Always keep tabs on your Trailblaze power and make sure it doesn't cap. If you see that it's about to, open up the map and teleport back to the XP Calyx, since material nodes like the Calyx Flowers also double as teleporters that you can port straight to on the map as long as you've walked up to them at least once before. And you can do another quick run or two to make sure your Trailblaze power doesn't max out. And when you need to stop playing for whatever reason and you know you won't be logging back on until a while later, make sure to dump your Trailblaze power completely so that it builds itself back up by the time you log back on. But keep an eye on your Trailblazer level while you're using your Trailblaze power. As the game tells you here, when you hit Trailblazer levels 20, 30, 40, and so on, you'll get Equilibrium upgrade trials that, when you finish them, upgrades your EQ level and gives you access to upgraded farming nodes, or more accurately, higher difficulty levels for those farming nodes that give you better drops. So, if you see that you're close to some of these levels, don't dump your Trailblaze power prematurely and save as much of it as you can going into your next Equilibrium level so that you can use it on the next tier of farming nodes to level up your characters and light cones with better efficiency. Other than Trailblaze power, you'll be getting a large portion of your Trailblaze XP early on from quests. Most quests give you Trailblaze XP when you complete them, and they're color-coded. Gold means Trailblazer quests, or main story quests. Purple means character quests, which are quests that involve specific playable characters, and light blue means minor or side quests. Main story quests give you the most XP, followed by character quests and then side ones. Once you've spent some of your Trailblaze power, focus on powering through the rest of the main story as far as you can, though you can go do side quests or go look for chests in the middle of it if you want to, since chests also give you a little bit of Trailblaze XP too, and every bit helps since eventually you'll hit your first progress gate at TL24. When you do hit this level gate and you're not TL24 already, and if you're free to play, most likely you won't be, you'll need to do everything you can that gives you Trailblaze XP, using your Trailblaze power, doing all the side quests that are available, and doing dailies. In the pause menu, the Inner Astral Guide tab has daily missions that you can do, and each of the 5 stages on there gives you both Stellar Jade, which is the gacha currency, and Trailblaze XP. Completing all 5 daily stages gives you a substantial amount of Trailblaze XP for the early game, so make sure you're doing these every day. Daily missions refresh with, well, daily reset, which for the American server is 2 AM Pacific Standard Time, and if you're on the other servers, check what their daily reset times are if they're not all the same. For side quests, you pick up a lot of them naturally as you push the main quest line, but there are some that you have to go out of your way for by exploring the various maps throughout the worlds, including the starting space station. Some side quests even last for several days, as in you complete one part of a quest one day and do another part the next, and repeat until the entire quest chain is done. For these reasons, I actually recommend that you explore as much of these maps as you can while you're still going through the main story, so that way you can not only pick up as many side quests as you can that give you Trailblaze XP, but also you can start on those side quests that need multiple days to finish, so the sooner you start them, the sooner you get the XP from them when you do finish them. Most of these side quests are relatively relatively easy to find and do, but there are a few that can be a little confusing. For example, Julian's quest, where you have to hunt down 3 pages from an old treasure book or something, and the game doesn't exactly tell you where to go to find them other than like the general areas where they can be. Look up how to do them if you don't know how to finish them on your own, or you can't be bothered to figure it out on your own. No one will judge you, I swear. Another place where you can get Trailblaze XP is the Echoes of War nodes. These are like weekly bosses in Genshin, but they work a little bit differently. There are currently 2 available Echoes of War, with the second one opening once you finish the main quest line for World 1, and you can do them a total of 3 times a week for rewards, which includes Trailblaze XP. Weekly reset is every Monday at 2 AM Pacific, again for the American servers, so depending on the day of the week that you start playing the game, you may or may not have enough time to reach the first equilibrium level and then do your weekly Echoes of War runs. If you start the game late into the week and you can't quite reach EQ level 1, just do your Echoes of War runs now, because you'd rather get some rewards from them than, none at all. But if possible, try to reach the highest equilibrium level possible before doing your Echoes of War runs. On the topic of weeklies, there's actually one other weekly for you to do, and that's the Simulated Universe game mode. It's a fully functional roguelike mode, or in other words, something Genshin will probably never have, a fun, permanent feature that, at least theoretically, provides infinite content once you're done with story stuff and dumping your Trailblaze power. Every week, you have a quota to fill by doing runs of Simulated Universe, or just SU for short, and depending on how well you do in each of your runs, regardless of whether you win or lose, you accumulate score towards that weekly quota. The higher the quota you complete, the more weekly rewards you get, which includes a unique currency called Herta Bond that you can use to buy 5-star light cones from Herta's store in Simulated Universe. If you play Genshin, this is a straight up better version of the Inazuma and Sumeru fishing merchants who give you 4-star weapons, because imagine for a second, if Genshin gave you access to 5-star weapons that you didn't have to pay Primogems for. Yeah, that's Star Rail with this Simulated Universe game mode. So that's your general game plan for early game progression. Now, let's dive into the details of your account progress, starting with relics. Star Rail has a relic system that's almost a carbon copy of Genshin's artifact system, and just like how you wanted to wait until AR45 to start farming gold artifacts in Genshin, here in Star Rail you want to wait until your TL40 and EQ3 to start farming gold relics from Caverns of Corrosion to guarantee a gold relic every run. Apparently, if you wait until your TL50 and EQ level 4, you can even get 2 gold relics per run, though personally I don't think it's worth waiting that long, even if it's true. This means that as long as you're under TL40, you shouldn't be spending any Trailblaze power on relics, and instead use it on materials to level up your characters, their light cones, and their trace trees, as I mentioned earlier. The game should give you a lot of character XP and credits as rewards from completing quests or from the free battle pass, so you can spend a lot of your Trailblaze power on material calyx flowers and stagnant shadows to ascend your characters and the light cones that they're using. Also, don't forget to visit Pom Pom at the Parlor Car to pick up your level up rewards. Every level up gets you 1 fuel, which is the fragile resin of Star Rail, or in other words, a consumable that gives 60 Trailblaze power apiece when you use them, or basically stamina on demand, and they never expire, until you use them, that is. Since you don't want to farm relics before TL40, save these up for when you do hit TL40 and then go ham with them to start farming gold relics. In the meantime, the game gives you quite a few 4-star or purple relics naturally from you completing quests and opening high-tier chests in the overworld maps. You can even buy some 4-star relics from merchants using the currency you get from each world's chests. For example, the underground shopkeeper in Boulder Town sells a full set of physical damage relics that your physical MC can use, and Pom Pom gives you a full set of healing relics for your TL26 and TL27 rewards that you can put on the free copy of Natasha that the game gives you partway into World 1's main storyline. Equip your characters with these purple relics as soon as you get them, and level up those relics using either relic dust or lower rarity relics to around +6 so that your characters can get a considerable boost in stats from them. Try to match the relics' main stats to the characters who are equipping them. The head and hand pieces are like the flower flower and feather artifacts in Genshin, and that they both have fixed main stats, HP and attack respectively, but the boots, body pieces, and the 2 planar ornament types have RNG main stats, so see if the purple relics that you've gotten have rolled main stats that your characters would want. Don't worry about giving characters the wrong relic set. Most of the purple relics you'll get are either the musketeer or thief sets anyway, or if you don't have the right main stats for the right characters. You can optimize those things much later in the game. For now, in early game, the extra stats that your characters get from +6 purple relics will take them a very long way. That, and while this might sound like copium from all the defense percent stats that I've already rolled in Star Rail, stats like defense percent and HP percent are at least still usable in Star Rail early on because of its turn-based gameplay, which means that unless you've rolled Selly, for example, from her banner right now, and you get her to extra turn loop all the enemies to death like she's an art servant in FGO, your characters will eventually take damage, and those stats will at least help, unlike another MiHoYo game. Once you've got these sorts of starter relic sets for everyone in your main team, keep leveling your characters, their light cones, and their traces while you're waiting to hit TL40. Some more things to do while you're leveling. Assignments are the same thing as expeditions in Genshin, where you send out characters to go gather materials for you. Don't do expeditions for the synthesis materials, those are for consumables, and you'll get enough of those while you're running around breaking every box, suitcase, and vase you come across in the overworld. Just set the ones for character XP, light cone XP, credits, and one for a character leveling material of your choice. The character material expeditions are also not that important, and I'll explain why later. For now though, set all the assignments to 20 hours for the best efficiencies, and make sure to put in a character from each bonus path that applies to each assignment for the best bonuses. Another feature that's from Genshin is the Traveler's Handbook, or the Inner Astral Guide in Star Rail. In addition to the daily missions that I talked about earlier, there's a second tab called the Operation Briefing tab, where you can do multiple sets of 4 tasks. Doing them will give you more rewards, including Trailblaze XP, and finishing each set fully also gives you more free shit, so do as many of them as you can. Once you've done all the quests you can, and you're caught up with the main storyline and the Operation Briefing tasks so far, you'll find that your Trailblaze level progression will slow down, since now you should only be leveling up from dailies and using your Trailblaze power. But there is one more source of Trailblaze XP that you can get. Clearing each world for the first time in Simulated Universe gives you Trailblaze power, so try to push as far into Sim Universe as you can. I mean, you might as well, because other than this and Forgotten Hall, it's not like you're doing anything else in the game at this point, right? Even if you can't quite beat a sim world yet, keep playing it anyway, and experiment with all the different paths, because every new blessing and curio you take, indicated by a book icon on the top right, I think, when you're playing, will give you more Stellar Jade for you to collect. Let's talk a little more about Simulated Universe, since there is a lot to unpack about this game mode besides the stuff I've already told you from before. Your weekly quota starts off at 3,500 points, then increases to 5,000, which means more rewards. I believe the game increases it depending on what your equilibrium level is at the start of the week, but it won't increase it in the middle of the week when you reach the proper EQ level, which makes it even more important to hit EQ level 1 as quickly as you can. Starting with SU3, you can exchange Trailblaze power or Immersifier coins you get from your weekly rewards for planar ornaments, which are the 2 inner relic types in a character's relic tab. Just like relics, they also have 5-star or gold variants, which are the ones you want, but they're only available starting with SU5's first difficulty, or SU5-1. Technically, SU3 has them too, but only on the second difficulty tier at SU3-2, and you have to unlock SU5 first anyway. So hold on to your Immersifiers until SU5-1 and don't spend them until then. You can exchange Trailblaze power for Immersifiers, but try not to do this unless you're in a hurry and you need to use up some of your stamina right away, since your weekly Simulated Universe rewards have Immersifier coins in them, and the game most likely will not let you hold more than 8 of them. So if you feel like your account progress is a little slow, you want to buy as much time as you can to reach SU5, but obviously if you're capped on Immersifiers and you haven't reached SU5 yet still, then spend them on previous worlds so that you don't waste them completely. Keep in mind that each sim world offers different planar ornament sets, just like how different corrosion caverns offer different relic sets. So when you start farming for planars, check each sim world to make sure you're farming the right one for the ornaments that you want. And when you do spend them, the immersifier stations will tell you here, limit one exchange. This means that you can only redeem your immersifiers or Trailblaze power once per station. There's actually no weekly limit or anything like that to how many times you can use the immersifier stations for planars over separate simulated universe runs. All this is saying is that if you want to redeem for planar ornaments more than once, you'll need to go through the rest of your current simulated universe run to reach the other immersifier stations later on and keep exchanging for planar ornaments there, in case you were confused by that, since I know I certainly was when I first saw that. I mentioned Forgotten Hall earlier, so let's go over that now. It's Star Rail's version of Genshin's Spiral Abyss. Basically, there are 15 stages that you can clear, and you can score up to 3 stars on each stage, with 3-star clears giving you the most rewards. Apparently, there are also even higher stages past 15, which function like floors 9 through 12 in Genshin's Abyss that rotate every so often, but since I haven't gotten there yet, I can't verify that personally, so maybe any of you who've played in the closed betas before can tell us for sure if it was available back then. Forgotten Hall also has its own shop where you can buy 4-star light cones, so make sure to go through them in case you need another light cone for one of your characters, but keep in mind that the later stages of Forgotten Hall are definitely meant to be endgame, since starting with stage 11, you have to bring 2 teams just like the last 4 floors of Genshin's Abyss. So just push as far as you can with what you have, and don't stress it when you hit a wall, since you can always come back to it later. Some miscellaneous tips here in no particular order. Most things that cost Trailblaze power to redeem rewards for, like Calyx Flowers, Stagnant Shadows, Corrosion Caverns, and even Echoes of War, allow you to take one support character. The supports of the players that you have on your friends list will filter up to the top first, but if you scroll down past them, you'll find the support characters of random players that are very strong, and since it doesn't cost you anything to take a support, use them as much as you can. And speaking of supports, in your Trailblazer profile, there's a tab where you can set a support character of your own, so set whoever your strongest character is so that they can start passively generating more credits for you. It's not going to be a lot, but it's still something. Just like in Genshin, you can synthesize lower tier materials into higher tier ones at an exchange rate of 3 to 1, but instead of needing to use a crafting table to do this, you can do this anywhere in Star Rail when you pull up your escape menu and go to synthesize. You can't synthesize the main ascension material for characters like this though. You have to farm to them directly from the respective stagnant shadows or side grade them using the synthesizer using other mats of the same tier. In the pause menu store, there's a tab called Embers Exchange, which is Star Rail's version of Genshin Impact's Stardust Exchange. Just like Stardust, you can buy 5 more special and regular boarding passes every month along with other items, but one big difference is that in Star Rail, you can buy an extra Tracks of Destiny, which is almost like being able to buy an extra crown in Genshin, so please don't forget to buy those. The Battle Pass has an item called Self-Modeling Resin, and it's in the free-to-play section, so everyone should eventually get it at BP level 40. It's an item that you can use here in the Synthesizer tab, specifically in the Relic Crafting tab, and when you use it, it allows you to fix a main stat for any one relic on any relic set currently available in the game. This is excellent for early game, since main stats are what you care about the most for now, so save these for when you hit TL 40, so that way you can eventually get one of your characters a relic with the main stat that you're looking for after salvaging like 10 shitty gold relics, that is. Simulated universe enemies also drop materials the same way they normally would in the overworld. Specifically, you can kill up to 100 elite enemies in Sim Universe and get drops from them, including credits and, most importantly, relic XP, and you want to bank up as much of it as you can for when you finally get started farming gold relics at TL 40. And by farming Sim Universe like this, you'll naturally accumulate tons of regular overworld materials that you can use for your character ascensions, light cone ascensions, and character trace level ups, because each Sim Universe world has at least 2 layout variations, and they always throw a diverse mix of enemies at you, meaning that you never have to run around the overworld maps to farm for their materials. You can just sit here instead in Sim Universe and get extra light dust on top of everything else when you normally have to spend, Trailblaze power for relic fodder. I mean, you'll still be farming relic fodder anyway eventually, but it's nice to have some more, especially when you finally do get some gold relics that you like and start enhancing them. I think I'm repeating myself here, but again, don't forget to visit Pom Pom and the Parlor Car whenever you level up your Trailblazer level, since again, they'll give you rewards for each level that you've reached, just like in Genshin. Also, don't forget to go to the travel log in the pause menu and do the trials for the rate up characters for some extra rewards too. I would heavily recommend investing into Trailblazer. Both of their forms are very useful, but since both forms require individual leveling, as in you need to gather materials for and upgrade both forms separately aside from their character level, that stays the same. It's best if you commit to just one form for now, in which case I'd recommend Pyro Trailblazer, since they're the only tank in the game for now who comes with their own taunt. Star Rail is one of the very few gacha games I've played where the devs have the absolute balls to make their main character actually strong, so don't sleep on them. Also, invest into your Natasha. Unless you've rolled Bailu, Natasha will be your only healer, so might as well make her work, right? Her most critical upgrade is her Soothe bonus ability in her Trace Tree that gives her a debuff cleanse on her skill when you unlock it, and given how often enemies put debuffs on you in Star Rail, this should be very useful. Level whoever else you want since a full team can take 4 characters, but just know that as a free-to-play, your resources are precious and very limited, so you need to commit to a core roster of characters to deal with both main story and extra game modes like Sim Universe. In fact, this next advice applies to both free-to-plays and whales alike, so basically everyone. But once you hit TL40 and you can start farming for gold relics, I would strongly recommend fully committing to a single main team of characters you're either most comfortable with or the characters you consider to be the strongest on your account, so that they can power through the higher difficulties of Simulated Universe. In fact, I would go so far as to say that you should already know what your main team will be even before you hit TL40, because your progression as a free-to-play should slow down starting at around TL30 or so. You have some time before you hit TL40 to start farming relics. It's during this downtime that I think you should hard commit to one team, so that way you use your Trailblaze power before TL40 to pre-farm Ascension and Trace materials for your main team characters and level them up as soon as you do hit TL40 and go straight into relic farming. So what I did was, after I hit TL40 and did my EQ3 quest, I started spamming my fuel to farm for full relic sets for each of my main team members, Bronya, Selly, Tingyun, and Natasha. If you've been saving your fuel, which you should have been, especially as a free-to-play, you should have also been able to do this too, since Pom Pom gives you a lot of fuel for all of your Trailblazer level ups. And luckily, I was able to get everyone full 4-piece relic sets with the appropriate main stats. Some of the subsets are, well, suboptimal, but that's okay. I can always come back to optimize their relics later. The point is that now, my Bronya's and Selly's main relics are at plus 15, Tingyun's and Natasha's are at plus 6, and everyone's planar ornaments are also at plus 6. With this team, I was able to go from getting my ass blasted by Mr. Savarog and his grabby hands in SU4-1 all the way to beating SU4-2, which is the highest difficulty of Sim Universe you can do before TL50. Admittedly, this might not be the most relatable example of progress, since Bronya, Selly, and Tingyun are, well, 3 of the strongest characters in the game, and none of them are exactly, free-to-play friendly, but I think the point still stands. You want to decide what your main team should be, and the earlier the better, since the more you play that team, the better you understand how it works. If you're free-to-play, I would recommend Natasha as your healer and Asta as your buffers, since, well, they're both free, and then pick 2 DPSs, either 2 single targets or 1 single target and 1 AoE. Basically, you want 1 healer, at least 1 buffer, and at least 1 DPS, so either a double DPS setup with 1 main DPS and 1 sub DPS, or a hyper carry team with only 1 DPS but 2 buffers if you have an extra one. Reminder that at the time of this video recording, Tingyun will be on raid up with Jingyuan soon. Once you put together a team that you like, commit to farming their materials before you hit TL40. In fact, I'd suggest for you to pre-farm the materials they need for their next ascension stages, trace levels, and even light cone ascensions. Oh, and don't forget about the character XP and light cone XP too. So that way, the moment you hit TL40 and finish the EQ3 upgrade quest, you can go straight into relic farming. If you end up not having enough Trailblaze power to get everyone leveled, build, prioritize your main DPS characters since their performance is most dependent on how much investment you put into them. And when you start farming relics, prioritize matching main stats for your DPS over their 4-piece set bonus and get them to plus 15 if you can, but do the opposite for your supports, as in prioritize giving them full 4-piece sets, but you don't have to get their relics all the way to plus 15, only to like plus 6 like I mentioned earlier. Don't worry about matching elements to enemy weaknesses for now. Yes, abusing enemy weaknesses to constantly break them over and over is how you play Star Rail, and that matters in story fights, Forgotten Hall, and events whenever we start getting those. But Simulated Universe is a little different because there, you can just have the path and the blessings you pick carry you instead of relying on breaking enemies with their elemental weaknesses, and Sim Universe is the game mode you'll be playing the most often overall anyway. That, and you can worry about investing into other characters later once your current team is properly geared, since it's not like Forgotten Hall is going anywhere, right? And speaking of Forgotten Hall again, it's not Sim Universe that's the true endgame for Star Rail. No, that's Forgotten Hall, because not only do you need to bring 2 decently leveled and geared teams for stages 11 and up, like I mentioned before, but there are also 10 additional floors past stage 15 that the game does not show you until after you clear stage 15. This is called Memories of Chaos, and they reset every 3 weeks or so, I guess, similar to Genshin's Abyss floors 9 through 12, resetting every 2 weeks. And that means your long-term goal in Star Rail is not only to build 1 main team, but eventually 2. So honestly, the sooner you can decide on what your second team will be, the earlier you can focus on eventually taking on Memories of Chaos. But for now, focus on getting your first team up and running, and only get started on your second team once you feel that your first one gets the job done. Now, time for some advice from my fellow dolphins and whales, since, well, let's just say that I've already spent quite a bit of money on Star Rail so far. Remember that you can refresh your Trailblaze power 8 times a day, but each refresh costs Stellar Jade, and the price goes up every couple refreshes while the amount of Trailblaze power you get for each refresh stays the same at 60. So if you're not a fat frickin' whale with Stellar Jade to burn, the most economical number of refreshes is about 3, since they're at the 2 cheapest prices of 50 and 75. The Stellar Warp Banner, which is the permanent gacha pool, has a one-time guaranteed 5-star character selector feature. When you do a total of 300 individual rolls, or in other words 30 multi-rolls on this banner, regardless of how lucky or unlucky those rolls were, the game will let you pick one of the 7 permanent 5-star characters. This feature is actually available to everyone, not just whales, but naturally it'll be the most relevant to us whales since we're the only ones who can use it anytime soon. Also remember that the Undying Starlight shop, or the Star Rail version of Genshin Star Glitter shop, has permanent 5-star light cones that you can directly exchange for. As a general rule of thumb, whichever character appears on a light cone's art is whom that light cone is usually meant for, and that applies to both 4 and 5-star LCs. 5-star light cones are all generally very strong, and you can use them on any matching character, not just the character who shows up on the LC's art itself, so you can pick one up here if you want. However, let me stress that 600 starlight is a lot, since that's basically 3 whole multis you could be doing instead, so make sure you actually do want one of them. And finally, just like Genshin, Star Rail's already started to leak their upcoming content. No surprises there, really. So if you want some clairvoyance for some upcoming banners to plan out your gacha rolls over the next couple of months, keep an eye on various Star Rail Twitter channels and ask around on various social media platforms like Discord to stay informed. Just don't tell me Hoyo that you heard this from me. And that's how you min-max your account in Honkai Star Rail. Hopefully this helps for your own early game experience. There may be some details that I missed, so if you guys feel like I left out something, feel free to share them down in the comments below so that other people might see it. Or if you guys have any more specific questions about Star Rail's early game or anything about the game in general, leave them down below and I'll do my best to answer them in detail. Or, better yet, follow my Twitch channel. Like I said at the beginning, I've been streaming this game since launch for at least 6 to 7 hours a day. On day 2, I'm pretty sure I did a 14-hour stream even, so you can join me there whenever I'm live to ask me your questions directly. Also, subscribe to the YouTube channel here while you're here, as I plan to pump out regular Star Rail content now, as fast as I can anyway, while juggling streaming and YouTube stuff at the same time. Speaking of which, my next few Star Rail videos will be guides on Bronya and Selly, as well as a tier list video for who the best 5-star characters are. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys over at Twitch. Peace.